Welcome to the 5th episode of this series. We were discussing about the advent of Islam as prophesied in the Bible. In this episode, we will focus on the dream of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon and the interpretation of that dream as given by the prophet Daniel. The southern kingdom of Judah was taken captive by the king Nebuchadnezzar as part of the curse incurred by the children of Israel. We will not go into the details of their captivity. However, we will straight away jump to Daniel chapter 2, where the king got very disturbed by one of the visions he saw in his dream. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please do so. Also, do not forget to click the bell icon to be notified of our new updates. Babylon was at zenith of its glory during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar. It was during this time he was given a dream about the events that would happen in the land that belonged to him. You can read about the controversy that was caused after he got the dream and how his decree created problem for the astrologers of his kingdom. The details of the events surrounding the interpretation of the dream can be understood by reading the initial few verses of Daniel chapter 2. But before we proceed further on the interpretation of the dream, I would like to draw your attention to a piece of land which is the focus of this dream. This land in focus is generally called as the Middle East or West Asia. But the land for which the dream is given to Nebuchadnezzar is specifically called the Kingdom of Babylon. This land is situated in the fertile plains of the land south of Euphrates in modern Iraq. The land towards the north of Babylon is generally referred as the Kingdom of Assyria. The people of the southern kingdom of Judah was taken as captive to Babylon, whereas the people of the northern kingdom was taken as captive by the Assyrians. Now coming back to the dream. King Nebuchadnezzar's dream was a significant and troubling one. However, only the king himself knew the details of the dream, and he was unable to interpret it. Through divine intervention, Daniel, a prophet in the Bible, was able to interpret Nebuchadnezzar's dream. The dream consisted of a large and impressive statue made of various metals, with a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet partly of iron and partly of clay. In Nebuchadnezzar's dream, a stone cut out without human hands struck the statue on its feet, causing it to crumble into pieces and be blown away like chaff, while the stone grew into a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Daniel revealed to the king that the different parts of the statue represented successive empires, with the head of gold representing Nebuchadnezzar's own Babylonian empire, and the subsequent parts of the statue representing other empires that would come after Babylon but would be inferior in value and power. The stone that destroyed the statue represented the kingdom of God, which would ultimately triumph over all earthly empires and establish an everlasting kingdom. According to the interpretation provided by Daniel in the Bible, the kingdom represented by the silver in King Nebuchadnezzar's dream is the Medo-Persian Empire, which succeeded the Babylonian Empire. The Medo-Persian Empire, also known as the Achaemenid Empire, was one of the world's largest and most powerful empires, spanning from approximately 550 BC to 330 BC. It was characterized by its silver-like value and strength, which is believed to be symbolized by the silver in Nebuchadnezzar's dream as interpreted by Daniel. The Babylonian kingdom was removed from its place in the reign of king and co-regent Belshazzar. The reason for his sudden destruction is mentioned by the prophet Daniel as the misuse of the sanctified vessels of the Temple of Jerusalem. According to the Bible, Belshazzar, the son of Nebuchadnezzar, was ruling as king of Babylon when the city was besieged by the armies of the Persian Empire under the leadership of Cyrus the Great. During a lavish feast that Belshazzar was hosting, a mysterious hand appeared and wrote a message on the wall of the palace. None of the wise men of Babylon were able to interpret the writing, and Belshazzar was greatly troubled. At the urging of the queen, Daniel, a prophet in the Bible who had previously served in Nebuchadnezzar's court, was brought in to interpret the writing on the wall. Daniel revealed that the message foretold the end of Belshazzar's reign and the fall of Babylon. He interpreted the writing as meaning, mean, tekel, upharsin, which were words of judgment, signifying that Belshazzar's kingdom had been weighed in the balance and found wanting, and that it would be divided and given to the Medes and Persians. That very night, Cyrus and his forces entered the city of Babylon through a strategic diversion of the Euphrates River, which allowed them to bypass the city's defenses. Belshazzar was slain, and the Babylonian Empire came to an end, with the Medo-Persian Empire taking its place as the dominant power in the region. Thus, Belshazzar was removed from his position as king of Babylon through the fall of the empire at the hands of the invading forces of Cyrus the Great. King Cyrus of Persia would one day make it possible for the Jews to return home from their exile in Babylon. See the book of Ezra. Isaiah predicted this great event, even mentioning Cyrus by name. Isaiah chapter 44 verse 28 and 45 verse 1, some 150 years before Cyrus's time. The next kingdom that would be replacing the Medo-Persian Empire is characterized as the Bronze Empire. Bible scholars are of unified opinion that the Greek Empire led by Alexander the Great, which succeeded the Medo-Persian Empire, is the Bronze Kingdom, as bronze was known for its strength and durability, similar to the military might and expansionist policies of the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great. Daniel 11 speaks about the same king in a different vision. The passage reads as follows. Now then, I tell you the truth. 3 more kings will arise in Persia, and then a 4th, who will be far richer than all the others. When he has gained power by his wealth, he will stir up everyone against the kingdom of Greece. Then a mighty king will arise, who will rule with great power and do as he pleases. After he has arisen, his empire will be broken up and parceled out toward the 4 winds of heaven. It will not go to his descendants, nor will it have the power he exercised, because his empire will be uprooted and given to others. We know that Alexander was the Greek king who was very fast in his conquest. He is symbolized by leopard with 4 wings of fowl and 4 heads, Daniel chapter 7 verse 6. When Alexander died, his kingdom was split into 4 as we read in Daniel 11 verse 4. Historically, Alexander the Great, who lived from 356 BC to 323 BC, did conquer the Medo-Persian Empire during his military campaigns. In 334 BC, Alexander invaded the Persian Empire, which was then under the rule of Darius III. He defeated Darius III in a series of battles, including the Battle of Issus in 333 BC and the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC, effectively ending the Persian rule and establishing the Greek Empire as the dominant power in the region. Alexander's kingdom was split into 4 exactly as prophesied in the Bible. After the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC, his vast empire was divided among his top generals, who became known as the Diadochi, meaning successors, in Greek. The Diadochi carved up Alexander's empire into several kingdoms, each of which was ruled by one of the generals. The main kingdoms that emerged from this division were 1. The Seleucid Empire, which was founded by Seleucus I Nicator and covered the largest portion of Alexander's empire, including Anatolia, Mesopotamia, Persia, and parts of Central Asia. 2. The Ptolemaic Kingdom, which was founded by Ptolemy I Soter and included Egypt, parts of present-day Libya, and parts of present-day Israel and Palestine. 3. The Antigonid Kingdom, which was founded by Antigonus I Monophthalmus and initially included parts of Anatolia and Greece. 4. The Kingdom of Macedon, which was initially ruled by Alexander's half-brother Philip III Arietius and later by Alexander's son Alexander IV. These kingdoms were often in conflict with each other as they vied for power and territory in the aftermath of Alexander's death. The Diadochi era marked a period of significant political upheaval in the wake of Alexander's death, and the division of his empire among his generals resulted in the fragmentation of his vast conquests into several separate kingdoms. While we continue to discuss these different kingdoms, we should always bear in our mind that the focus of our topic is the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, and therefore the land we know as Babylon is the centerpiece of the topic. The area of Babylon that was held by Seleucus after the death of Alexander. That portion of the empire was also called the Seleucid Empire. Various factors, including internal conflicts, external pressures, revolts, economic decline, and dynastic weaknesses, gradually eroded the Seleucid Empire's power and led to its decline. The empire eventually fragmented into several smaller kingdoms, and the last Seleucid ruler, Antiochus XIII, was killed in 64 BCE by the Roman general Pompey, effectively marking the end of the Seleucid dynasty. The decline of the Seleucid Empire began over a century before its final demise. Nobody was in control of the land of Babylon. It was basically ruled by overarching Persian kings of the area. You can notice the concept of layered kingdoms. In this case, when the Seleucid Empire became weak, the land gets into the hands of the Persian kings who continued to be the remnant of the earlier Medo-Persian Empire. Even though the rulership of the land changed hands, the civilians got used to the new rulers who did not force their ideology into the social fabric of the society. It is natural for people to think that the next big empire that came after the Greek Empire is the Roman Empire, and hence the legs of iron should be denoting the Roman Empire. But I have a surprise for you. The Romans never really held control over the land of Babylon other than for a very short period. In fact, it was just over a year, and they did retreat back in a hurry. In 115 AD, Trajan's forces absorbed many of the smaller kingdoms occupying the highlands of what is now eastern Turkey and northern Iraq. Then, in 116 AD, Trajan mounted a full invasion of the cities and farmlands situated between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. By the end of 116 AD, Romans had occupied the famous city of Babylon and seized the Parthian capital of Ctesiphon, the ancient Persian capital, near present-day Baghdad. Trajan even erected a statue of himself in Parthian territory near the Persian Gulf. The Roman Senate voted to give Trajan the honorary title, Parthicus, and Trajan celebrated the capture of Ctesiphon by issuing a gold coin that displayed two Parthian captives seated beneath a victory trophy. The coin carried the legend, Parthia capta, Parthia captured. But Parthia had not really been captured. Roman forces had swiftly occupied a great deal of territory without facing a large Parthian army. Parthian troops had instead withdrawn from the lowlands of Mesopotamia into the Zagros Mountains, and there began to organize a strong and effective response to the Roman occupation that would make Trajan's new conquests ungovernable. As mentioned in the layered structure of rulership, when the conquering kingdom becomes weak, the kingdom prior to that conquering kingdom comes into existence, albeit with some modifications. In this case, the Parthians, who are the organic heirs to the Medo-Persians, took over the land when the Seleucid dynasty became weak. Ending wars has always been hard for great powers. Hadrian knew this. In 117 AD, the new Roman emperor, successor to Trajan, decided to withdraw his forces from an unwinnable war against the Parthian Empire. Hadrian had inherited the conflict with Parthia, a large empire centered in what is now Iran, from Trajan, his imperial predecessor. Trajan's generals resisted Hadrian's withdrawal so forcefully that the emperor feared he might lose both his crown and his life. His ending of the war brought historical condemnation upon him for centuries. So, in short, Babylon was not really ruled by the Romans. Hence, they should not be considered as the iron leg. As mentioned in the layered rulership structure, the area was ruled by the Persians. The Neo-Persian Empire, which was also called as the Sassanid Empire. Under the Sassanian dynasty, Persia experienced a period of resurgence, with the empire reaching its peak in terms of territorial extent and cultural achievements during the reign of Khosrau I, also known as Anushirvan, in the 6th century AD. The Sassanian Empire was known for its centralized administration, Zoroastrian religion as the state religion, and its cultural and artistic achievements, including its distinctive architecture, metalwork, and textiles. However, the Sassanian Empire faced various challenges throughout its history, including conflicts with the neighboring Roman Empire, invasions by nomadic groups such as the Hephthalites and the White Huns, internal power struggles, economic issues, and religious tensions. One of the most significant events that led to the decline of the Sassanian Empire was the Arab Islamic conquests, which began in the mid-7th century AD. In 651 AD, the Sassanian Empire was defeated by the Arab forces of the Rashidun Caliphate under the leadership of Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab. The fall of the Sassanian Empire marked the end of ancient Persia and the beginning of Islamic rule in the region. This is the point where the iron leg starts in the history of Babylon. The Bible clearly mentions some characteristics of this empire, and that matches with the evidence we have concerning Islam. There is a key to that mystery. And that mystery can be opened by reading Daniel chapter 2 verse 40. A very important characteristic of Islam which cannot be found in any of the earlier empire. This is where I would remind you again of the layered rulership. When the Medo-Persians came and conquered Babylon, they did not destroy the infrastructure and the social structure of Babylon. They did not force people to do things contrary to their beliefs. In the same way, the Greeks also did not adversely affect the social, religious, and general structure of the society. However, that is not so with Islam. Notice what the Bible says about this iron empire. Daniel 2 verse 40 describes the fourth empire as follows. Following that kingdom, there will be a fourth one, as strong as iron. That kingdom will smash and crush all previous empires, just as iron smashes and crushes everything it strikes. Notice the way it characterizes the fourth kingdom. It will smash and crush all previous empires. Understand this point. It's the Neo-Persian Empire which is being defeated by Islam. But then, how can it crush all the previous empires? Ideally, it should be crushing the Neo-Persian Sassanid Empire. What it means is that the fourth empire will remove all traces of the previous empires by dismantling the social, economic, religious, and infrastructural basis of the civilian population. Islam perfectly ticks on this. People who think that it was the Romans who are the Iron Empire would have a huge mountain to cross in Daniel 2 verse 40. The Romans gladly accepted the gods of the Greeks with new names. They were an empire that built upon the existing social and infrastructural system of the land they governed. The Roman prided themselves in their roads, aqueducts, and other infrastructural projects which are still talked about as masterpieces. For an example, let us recount some events in which the Islamic king Amr ibn al-As conquered lands and destroyed the people of the land. Amr ibn al-As was a prominent military commander and governor during the early Islamic period. While he played a significant role in the expansion of Islam and the spread of the Islamic Empire, there are several incidents and actions attributed to him which is atrocious at the least. 1. Incident of Fatima bint Rabah. There is a shocking incident attributed to Amr ibn al as involving a woman named Fatima bint Rabah. According to some accounts, Fatima was a poetess who composed verses against Islam and its leaders. It is said that Amr ibn al as ordered her execution in a brutal manner, by having her tied between two camels and torn apart. 2. Treatment of non-Muslims. Some historical accounts mention that during his governorship of Egypt, Amr ibn al-As implemented harsh policies towards non-Muslims, particularly Coptic Christians. It is alleged that he imposed heavy taxes on non-Muslims, confiscated their lands, and subjected them to discriminatory treatment. 3. Treatment of prisoners of war. There are accounts that suggest that Amr ibn al-As was involved in mistreatment of prisoners of war during his military campaigns. For example, it is said that during the conquest of Egypt, he ordered the killing of thousands of captured Roman soldiers. Now, please do not be under an impression that this particular king was a black sheep in Islam. He and all others who followed Islam did it exactly as prescribed in the Quran, which is the constitution of the Islamic Empire. The same Islam continued its expansion throughout the Middle East and went all the way to India in the east and Spain in the west. Wherever they went, they did exactly as was prophesied in Daniel 2 verse 40. Genocide, annihilation, destruction, and forced conversions to Islam was the only thing that happened. Some reports suggest that 80 million Hindus were butchered in the process. The present country of Pakistan and Bangladesh were parts of India during that time. The Arab invaders raped the Hindu women and took them captive. The children born of these women were born into Islam, and that is how India got its Muslim population. The same story was repeated in Turkey, Egypt, North Africa, and Central Asian republics. Islam spread by sword, Surah 9 verse 5, subjugates by sword, Surah 5 verse 33, and dominates by sword, Surah 9 verse 29. In the process of analyzing Islam, let us not forget Babylon, the land of King Nebuchadnezzar, who saw the iron-legged statue dominating his land. This land of Euphrates holds special mention in the Bible for end-time prophecies. Now that we know the iron leg is none other than Islam, let us look into some evidence which proves the destructive nature of the Islamic Empire. Indeed, we see the same nature of Islam even into the present day. The great prophet Jonah of the Bible was buried in the city of Nineveh. This city is called as Mosul today. Notice the way they have destroyed the tomb of the prophet. This is not some vandalism by certain miscreants. It's Islam at its best. They want to remove and completely destroy history. This was how the Bamiyan Buddha statue in Afghanistan looked over 2 decades back. The Bamiyan Buddhas were 2 large statues of Buddha carved into the cliffs of Bamiyan Valley in central Afghanistan, and they were considered important cultural and religious landmarks. The statues, one measuring about 55 meters tall and the other about 38 meters tall, were believed to have been created between the 5th and 6th centuries CE, during the Buddhist period in the region. They were recognized as UNESCO World Heritage Sites and were considered masterpieces of Gandhara art, representing a unique fusion of Buddhist and Hellenistic artistic traditions. And then the spirit of extreme Islam got control over Afghanistan in the form of Taliban. The Taliban, who controlled Afghanistan at the time, carried out the destruction of the Bamiyan Buddha statues in March 2001 as part of their extreme interpretation of Islamic beliefs. Daniel chapter 2 verse 40 getting fulfilled. And this is how the statue looks now. Palmyra, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, has suffered extensive damage due to armed conflicts, including ISIS, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, and the Syrian government forces, as well as other armed groups involved in the conflict. ISIS captured Palmyra in May 2015 and subsequently carried out a campaign of destruction, including the demolition of ancient temples, statues, and other cultural artifacts that were considered idolatrous according to their extreme interpretation of Sunni Islam. The extent of the damage caused by ISIS was widely condemned by the international community and cultural heritage organizations. And this is how the Palmyra looks now. Hey guys, I think it's time we take a break and come back and continue this session about the dream of King Nebuchadnezzar in the next episode. In the meanwhile, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. Till then, the Lord bless you and keep